Welcome to Art Adventure.Travel podcast. Our feature is downtown Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City. I am Amy Hodges here with Scott Patria, my partner in art crime. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Amy.
So what are you hoping that we're going to see today?
Well, it's been a while since we've been to downtown Detroit, and there's a lot of news in the art press about how the arts are driving an urban renaissance in Detroit, and we're here to check it out, and it'll be really interesting to see what's taken hold in the last 5 to 10 years.
So we arrived downtown, Campus Martius district. It's busy, lots of construction going on in murals on all sides of buildings. The first one recognizable to us was a Shepherd Ferry and a Hound and Nassam mural. What were your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, the last time I was here, about the only mural downtown was the Whale by Weiland. It's really great to see contemporary and internationally known muralists, street artists, lends a pop of color to what is a downtown core that I really don't recognize.
Right here in the middle of Detroit.
That's right.
Part of these murals were all curated and funded through the Library Street Collective.
Yeah, Library Street Collective, it has caught my eye, I think actually through Instagram primarily, and some web presence, and I was really excited to get in there and check it out.
The first gallery that we went into was Library Street Collective. It was works by Carlos Rolon. The gallerist was very kind and showed us around and explained the works. Scott?
It felt very much like a storefront. At first I was a little mystified, but it's full of boom boxes, and it feels a little bit like a store, like you're there to shop for the individual boom boxes, and some of them were spray painted, graffitied, whatever, so I thought maybe those were individual objects for purchase. But no, it is an installation. All of which harkens back to his childhood in the 70s as a son of Puerto Rican immigrants in Chicago.
I really loved, especially after the explanation, the whole feel of that room. You're just immersed and overwhelmed by, from floor to ceiling, all this 70s glitz glam, very graffiti, so a little raw.
Yeah, and his trophies. I'm not clear that those were actually his trophies, but it was... if you walked into a young man's, let's say high school, junior high, these are the type of trophies, those sort of, like you say, cheap, cheesy, best, first place, whatever, for maybe not too much in particular. But that installation with the accompanying video and sort of a throne, the way it was arranged, the sort of icons before a throne was really interesting.
The next room was actually my favorite. It was very dark with foresty...
like a formal dining room.
Right, and there was a huge chandelier in the middle with neon light around it that said Dreamer, and 3 separate mirrored pieces that were very different, but they reflected that chandelier, and it was just very atmospheric.
Again, this is a situation where understanding the content really helps you appreciate the work itself. The large circular mirrored piece, at first blush, first glance, I probably wouldn't have responded or didn't respond to it very well. But once I understood that it was a representation of Hurricane Irma, and that the mirrors themselves harken back to his childhood, where living in a small apartment, a small home, mirrors were used pretty extensively to make the space feel larger.
And then lastly, the last room was very stark white with... these super colorful flower and organic paintings with a lot of gold leaf on them. And then there was a 70s display with a bunch of gold knickknacks and some ceramic pieces that he did.
Yeah, so the gold leaf references the Spanish coming over in search of gold into the New World, and in doing so, they weren't too worried about what they were doing to the environment, and so what today would be called strip mining wiped out a good part of the native flora, and so this is his reference to that and sort of bringing all that beautiful, vibrant foliage and flowers back, making these, again, almost a trophy, but bringing it back as a precious object.
Although each room felt extremely different, there was a little bit of commonality. One was real rough and raw, and one was just kind of dark and atmospheric, and then one was almost like decorative. So how would you say they all pull together?
Well, I felt like I was invited into his home, or at least his memories of home. Again, the room with the chandelier and the mirrored pieces felt very much to me like a formal tropical dining room. So you've got his bedroom, maybe with the trophies and the boombox, shrine to that. You've got the shrine to the dining area, and then the shrine to the living room, with the shrine itself, the étagère becoming a shrine, and then again the reverence of the flora and that's prevalent in those paintings. It's really a tightly put together show, really impressive.
Another favorite thing of my day was going out back into the alley behind the Library Street Collective and a parking garage. There's something that they call the Belt. All up and down that alley were various installations and murals, small and large, and then within the parking structure, each floor was dedicated to an artist, and How and Nassam actually had the first level, and wow, it was really outstanding.
Yeah, I was pretty taken by the Belt. It really makes a lot of sense. It gives the gallery a front entrance and rear entrance. Tara explained that, in the better months, this what otherwise would be an alley for trash collection becomes a pretty vibrant, art-filled place to stop and eat and drink and gather.
And Detroit being known for its crime, it really felt vibrant and made you feel inviting, and that it was like
and there was nobody there, but it felt vibrant. That's a real trick. But yeah, and another artist that they had on the exterior of the parking deck was Fail, who they just put up, I think she said last summer. So every year they add to this project, and there are panels within the alleyway that she says they change out every year as well. And some years are themes, and other years it's just individual artists working on individual panels. But it's a great way to tie the neighboring businesses together. It's a great way to drive traffic through alternative spaces, I guess. And it's an interesting... I asked if the city was helping with it, and apparently the city actually does own the alley, but the gallery and the related businesses lease it from the city and take care of the programming. So that's a really great example of a public-private partnership that I'm not sure happens too many places.
All right, where are we off to next? The final stop of the day was the David Klein Gallery exhibition, just opening, and we actually made it to an opening. Yay! Scott Hawking, and the name of the exhibition is Old. The minute you walk in, there's photographs on the wall, but the installation in the center was this large patinated column with a mound of skulls, and looked like salt to me. Like, was that Detroit salt?
Could be.
And the bones and skulls were all bronze with green patina. It was very stunning and eye-catching, and you kind of didn't see anything else around the walls until you had to walk up to that.
Yeah, I was really excited to see Scott, follow his work on Facebook a little bit. Scott's a pretty interesting cat because he'll go into a lot of these old abandoned factories and rail yards, etc. in Detroit and build. You would almost say he does land art, but he's using detritus from these sites and builds sculptural piles that, for instance, bear
like in the moment environmental stuff.
That's right.
That isn't really meant to stay there forever.
That, for instance, the title of one was Babel. He's effectively building the Tower of Babel within an old factory with pallets and railroad ties and beams and stone and concrete, whatever happens to be on the site. Of course, you can't sell that, so then he takes the photographs, and he's sold and published pretty well worldwide. So I was really excited to see this
Very
show.
diverse, too. So there's a lot of industrial as well as in the fields in some, crazy place.
Around the world.
Yeah.
Scott travels around the world and does work. So I was interested to see what he would do in for lack of a better term, a commercial gallery setting. But you're right, Amy. That central installation.
Very open and large. And then a smaller space behind. But yeah, perfect for displaying what he had to show.
Yeah. Well.
And the photos, which are so crisp and beautiful, they have a unique look to them too. Inside or outside, they were just amazing.
Really great show, and so happy to have gotten to the opening and seen Scott again.
A lot of people there, a lot of excitement, and it was young and older people, very diverse crowd, and that's always really exciting to see. So in coming to Detroit, we were trying to look at how artists and art have been reviving Detroit and saving the city. So general overall impressions.
I think there's a lot of really good energy. A lot of these gallerists are young. I remember when I was young and started my
They
first
can do
gallery.
it.
Yay! They're clearly more sophisticated with the
Better
tools.
tools,
Yeah, the tools and the
technology.
internet and the technology, they're able to do more with less. And yeah, I think there's a level of sophistication behind an
I also
education.
feel like it's not Detroit specific. They're drawing from all over the place, and artists are coming to be connected and collaborative.
That's true. Although one of the interesting things that was a pretty common comment was the world thinks you can come to Detroit and buy a building or a block or a
For
home.
$2.
Yeah, for nothing, and then open up. And
Oh, you missed out.
yeah, it's $200,000 buys you something you still need to put $200,000 into, I
Yeah,
guess.
we heard that multiple times.
Yeah, so that explains remote locations of some of these folks. Detroit's always been about driving, so people won't have any problem with driving from point A to point B
If you
to
make
see
good
quality,
art,
to
people
see
will
quality
come.
work. That's
Yeah.
right. The murals project, both downtown, like through Library Street Collective, the Belt, as we discussed before, sort of art driven.
Everywhere we went, there was that common thread, which excites me, that art that the public can see. Even if you're intimidated by a gallery, you can walk on the sidewalk to the store and see something cool.
And I think that because there's so much being driven at a grassroots level by these galleries, by these artists, there's a little bit different energy to the quote unquote revitalization, the renaissance. This one might take hold because while there's tremendous amounts of money and development happening downtown Detroit, there's also this grassroots stuff, planting a flag in the ground and building an arts community. There's some proliferation and cooperation and the osmosis and just the way the arts and the community are coming together to really take control of their own neighborhood.
And the
Really-
excitement around it,
That's
involving everybody, every age,
Yeah, really creating that sense of community
and opportunity.
around which art is the central focus. So I sure have hopes for Detroit and can't wait to see what they manage to do.
For sure.
So, as we've said, we had a great time in Detroit. We loved a lot of the art. I'd love to come back again soon. For anybody else wishing to come back, check out artdetroitnow.com for the really kind of the best listings that we found doing our research.
Yeah, clear, concise, and broken into various neighborhoods so you knew what to do when and put it together easily.
That's right.
Thank you, Scott, for your input and reviews.
Thanks, Amy. This has been fun.
And thank you all for joining us in Detroit.
Art, adventure, travel.
Next week we'll be in the Wild West, Ogden, Utah.
This is Scott.
And I'm Amy.
Till next time.